Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Paul Rimmer.
Yay!
Great to be here again at a nationalist meeting. Fellow patriots, we're precious people, always remember that. And we're the people that stepped out because we love our country, we love our inheritance, and we care about the future, we care about our children. And that's a virtue, that's a good thing to have. Now the media out there, the globalist media, they'll denigrate us, they'll stick nasty labels upon us, hateful labels upon us, they'll try and incite people against us. That is so wrong what they're doing, because we are just, I know patriots, I've been in this movement now for decades, and I know that most of the patriots I've met have got a heart of gold. They just love their country, and that's totally honourable. In fact, we all should love our country. Why should you not love Britain? We've been such a positive contributor to the world. We've given so much to the world. We've been so benevolent. We've given of ourselves. We've helped so many other countries to develop, get on their feet. I mean, the British Empire was about stopping barbarism in the world. It was about stopping wars in other countries. I mean, for example, in India now, there's a huge conflict going on between the Hindus and Muslims. The Muslims moved into India in the 12th century and set up the Mughal Empire and began to persecute and murder the Hindus. There's a huge mountain range at the north of India called the Hindu Kush. Kush means a place of death. That's where the Muslims used to drive the Hindus to get rid of them. We went into India and we disarmed the Mughal Empire and we liberated the Hindus. And that's why today India even exists, because we went there and we allowed them to have their own culture and their own way of life, and we contributed to the development of India. It was a totally positive operation that we carried out there. We've got a lot to be proud of what we've contributed to the world. So we don't have to apologise for being British. And we know we've got this great country which has stood for liberty, for liberating the human spirit. We've stood against tyrants, whether it was Charles I, whether it was Adolf Hitler, whoever, anyone who tried to impose their will upon us. We said, no, we value freedom. We value freedom, and we value decency and the Christian faith. A lot of it's rooted in our Christian inheritance, where we've been called to help each other and to support each other. It's entirely positive. Everything we stand for is good and true and proper. And therefore we should be proud to be patriots and part of the patriotic movement. And we need to really rekindle the patriotic movement again in Britain. And this is what this meeting's about, and what all this organisation is about. Britain first. Yeah. We value our nation, and we want to see it revived. And we realise it's up to us, the people, to take on that task. We can't leave it to anybody else. True. Now, we had a meeting here a month ago, and it seems like a long time ago, because Paul got up and said we're going to have a lot of activism this year, we're going to make things happen. There was a few people at the meeting, there wasn't that many there, maybe 16, 17, and we wondered Britain First, could it be rekindled again? But the past month has been incredible for Britain First. Yeah. I mean, I just watched them post videos on YouTube, and they were getting maybe 2,000 to 3,000 hits. And there was a little bit of interest in people saying, that's not going to happen, you know. Paul's been knocked down so many times, he can't get up again. And then suddenly, it just took off. Because he was brave and got involved with activism and raised this issue of the grooming gangs. That's such an important tool to awaken the British people to what's happening in our nation. The way the grooming gangs have behaved and the way the state allowed it to happen. But Paul has gone to town after town, and people have seen it being harassed by the police. I mean, there's the famous incident now in Nottingham, which just went totally viral. I think that's about 170,000 hits now on YouTube alone, and on other mediums. So you're probably looking at over 250,000 views. This is just a policeman stopping Paul and questioning him about where he's going and what he's doing. It was just pure harassment, really. But it's like it become viral, and it let the nation know and the world know that Britain First are up and running again. That the patriots have got the wind in their sail again. We've got a leader, and we've got an organisation that can make an impact and is standing up on the right issues. Yeah. Yeah. Now when I saw that, I thought, how are the state going to respond to that? Because although they might mock Britain first and they might mock Paul, the state recognise a capable foe when they see one. And they think, this guy, we know what this guy is capable of. He had 3 million followers on Facebook. He can create a movement virtually out of fresh air. So I thought, they're going to do something, they're going to pull something. And I knew that he'd been stopped on his way back from Russia, and there'd been a ridiculous setup using this Schedule 7, which is part of the Terrorism Act, which basically they can arrest you and then say, give us access to everything you've got, your phone, your laptop, whatever. Doesn't matter what private information is on it, we want to see it. And they'll do that without a judge, without a warrant. Now, the instinct of any Briton is to say, you're not on. This is my own private space. If you want to intrude on my own private space, you need a judge's permission to do that. But this is what Schedule 7 is all about. It's to trap you, to say no to this request that you give them total access to all your personal details. That's a trap, because then they can say, you've committed a criminal offence by doing that. Now, they've been trapping a lot of Muslims through this Schedule 7 over the recent past, including a very high-profile Muslim called Mohammed Rahabi, who's head of CAGE, which is an organisation which looks after Muslims who are in prison, and it catered for a lot of Muslim terrorists as well in their legal defence. It's a legal advocacy organisation. And they did it to him. They arrested him and said, give us your laptop, open your laptop, we want to see everything on it. But he had very sensitive stuff on that laptop about trials all over the world, you know, which he wouldn't disclose to the police. So he was charged, and he ended up in a magistrate's court, and he was found guilty, and he was fined, I think it was £600, and given a warning, you know, so that if he didn't cooperate with the police in the future, it would be, you know, more severe punishment. So this Schedule 7, it's set up as a trap, because we won't concede our rights that easily. The police know that, but they've made it on the international boundary. If you don't concede your rights, it's a criminal offence. Now, this goes against every tradition in English law. Habeas corpus, your right to privacy, the necessity of a warrant, the necessity of a judge to be involved in a case. It goes against all of that. It infringes every aspect of the European Human Rights Act. It's absolutely horrendous. And the left and the Muslims, because they've actually been the targets up to now of this schedule, of this Schedule 7, they have resisted this and have tried to bring the state to heel. And the state has had to reconsider some of the procedures they're using. So this case with Paul is a very sensitive case. They know if they can get a prosecution with Paul, they can go and advance this even further, Schedule 7, to harass other people. So it's getting a lot of attention in the media, it's getting a lot of attention on Twitter. There was a heck of a Twitter storm after Thursday, the meeting on Thursday, and it was great to see 30 patriots turn up to support Paul. Yeah. So we went into court and came out of court as a body. The left were nowhere to be seen. The whole thing is a bit of an embarrassment, really. But it should embarrass the government, this as well. It's getting a lot of media attention. I mean, the Daily Mail have covered it online, and that's had millions of hits. And even in America, American bloggers have been wondering what's going on in Britain, that someone can be prosecuted for defending their own private space. So this has got the potential to lift Britain First again to a higher level. So in the past month, we've seen this activism. People say, what's this activism going to achieve? We've seen it achieve great recognition that Paul is campaigning again and is building a movement again. And now we've gone to the next level, that it's got international attention, national attention, and it's on a massive civil liberties issue. This is a really serious issue, so it's grabbing people's attention. So it just shows you can go from being at the margin, achieving nothing, being totally irrelevant, to within a month being the centre of media attention. Now, we've had this coronavirus, and which has swamped the media, so it's hard to get your voice heard. But it's amazing that Paul has managed to get such amazing exposure so quickly. So, I mean, my admiration for Paul never ceases, never diminishes, it grows all the time, because I just see this guy's being so capable. And it's key individuals like Paul that are needed to trigger the patriotic movement in Britain again, to revive it. It's great to see a lot of old patriots here today. a lot of committed patriots, you know, and nationalists. We're looking for an organisation to be part of which can make an impact, because the truth is we're needed more than ever. Now, we've just seen Labour get trounced in the election, and we can all rejoice at that. But we're now seeing the way Boris Johnson is going to govern. It's about managing the transformation of Britain. Not stopping it, not reversing it, managing the transformation of Britain. What's the transformation of Britain? From being a British nation, 4 peoples of Britain, the English, the Welsh, the Scots, the Northern Irish. We've got to take the Southern Irish on board as well here. Taking it from that, our traditional country, which goes back to the Norman conquest in 1066, and turning Britain into what? What's it been? A multicultural society where we are pushed to the margin, where we are dispossessed, where our culture and our inheritance is squandered and given away, where our cities are colonised one after the other, where our churches are turned into mosques, where our schools are turned into places for indoctrination of our kids into alien ideologies and alien religions. It's not our country. It's transformation into a lost world where we don't fit in. And there's a problem with multiculturalism. Islam does not believe in multiculturalism. It believes there's only one way, only one God, only one law, the Sharia law. They're at war with multiculturalism. They see multiculturalism initially as an opportunity to grow and expand within it, and then to take it over and subjugate it. And that's the future that we're seeing ahead of us, unless we can change it. Unless we can change the direction of this nation, unless we can wake the British people up to what is happening. Of course, it's not just happening in Britain, it's happening in every single European country. And there's a stirring across the continent, and nationalist forces are arising, powerful nationalist forces in nation after nation. And in Eastern European countries like Poland and Hungary, Viktor Orban, the Law and Justice Party, the nationalists have taken control. But we've got to take control in Germany. We've got to get Marine Le Pen in France. We've got to have Salvini in Italy. And we've got to have a force in Britain that can save this nation. And all that, as we know, is under the auspices of the great man himself, President Donald Trump. Yeah. This is why. This is why we can fight this fight with optimism, because we have great people alongside us internationally. And I watched Donald Trump's rally yesterday in South Carolina, and it was electric again. Another electric rally. The guy's amazing. Nothing gets him down. He just bounces back, you know. And he's always positive. He's always jovial. He's always looking for future victories. Winning. And he's got the Democrats on the run. And when he wins in November, God willing, that is so important for us in this nation. Because Boris Johnson, I see Boris Johnson as part of that liberal Tory tradition which doesn't really care that much about the people of this country, which just wants to maintain the capitalist system and maintain their little world of public schools and the elite, and the way that as long as they've got their will, they're happy. But they're not interested in us, the British people. We're expendable. True. We've got to realise that. Yes. They don't care about us. Why would they give our cities away? Now people say to me, oh, it's ridiculous to say these are going to take over or those are going to take over. I mean, I've been saying this since the 1980s. I mean, there was 400,000 followers of Muhammad in this country in 1986. And I was saying, look, these people are going to explode in number. They're going to take over city after city. They're going to take political power. And if we don't wake up, they'll take over our country. People know that's a reality now. A reality we all have to live with every single day. And if we go to Bradford, West Bradford, you'd be lucky to see an Englishman. If you go to parts of Birmingham, you'd be lucky to see an English woman, you know. And this goes town after town right across this nation. I remember when Blackburn, I'd go to visit a friend in Blackburn, and he used to talk about the Muslim quarter in Blackburn. Now they talk about the English quarter in Blackburn. And it's getting smaller and smaller. This is the way it proceeds. It's a gradual takeover of our entire nation. But we're not allowed to talk about it. This is what's so horrendous about it. If we could discuss it democratically and say, do we approve of this or do we reject it? Should we resist it or should we allow it? that would be fine, but we're not allowed to even discuss this. They've used censorship laws to keep us silent on these issues, and we can't afford to be silent. We've got to speak about them. I mean, I used to have a very active page on Facebook and on Twitter where I would educate people about the nature of Islam and multiculturalism, but those pages were closed down. They don't want people to be educated. They want people to remain in ignorance. And that's why we are so important as a catalyst. We have to educate each other, we have to encourage each other, we have to bind together in an organisation, and then we have to be the catalyst which awakens this nation. And it can happen. It's happened before. I mean, go back to 1968, Enoch Powell, when he made that speech. It was electric in the nation. He warned us of the danger ahead. He said, it's like watching a nation busily engaged in heaping up its own funeral pyre, and that pyre will be lit and our nation will be extinguished. We love our country so much, we're not prepared to allow that to happen, not without a fight anyway. We know how great the British people have been through history, that we have fought the good fight with all our might, and we have won so many battles. We're not going to be the generation that gives it away. We're not going to be the people who stand aside. We're going to be the people who have the courage to say, we resist. We have the courage to say, we will never surrender to this. I mean, I'll just finish on this. Life is a short journey. You begin to realise that as you get older. 70 years and 10, it's over. We've been passed the baton from previous generations. The greats of our past. Horatio Nelson, Oliver Cromwell, even Richard the Lionheart, who went to fight in the Holy Land for the Christian cause. Even Alfred the Great, who stood to maintain the English people when we were being overwhelmed then. We've been handed the baton from these people.
The young boys in World War II.
All the lads who suffered en masse, who fought with their heart for this nation in so many battlefields across the continent and across the world. We've been handed the baton from them. It's our duty to defend this nation and to prosper this nation and to pass that baton on to the next generation. We've got a lot of enemies out there, and they've had us on the run since the Second World War. They push this liberal, left-wing, anti-British, anti-white, anti-Christian agenda day after day in the newspapers, in the television sets, in our schools. They brainwashed us, they tried to destroy us, they tried to break our hearts, they tried to grind us down into the dirt, and they thought they'd won. And then came Brexit, and they got a shock. And then the Labour Party have got an even bigger shock, because we've put two fingers up to them and they've gone. But we want to give them an even bigger shock. We want to say that British patriotism is alive and well and is about to enter the golden age. And with people like Paul in the front, we can overcome and we can win. So take confidence in that. Thank you.